Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be troubleshooting the Apex pellet grill igniters. So if you're having problems with them lighting, watch this video. All you're really going to need is a screwdriver and some needle nose pliers. Let's get started. Our first step is going to be shutting off the propane and unhook it. Next, we're going to go to the inside of the grill and take apart all of the internals. Once you have the grates and the covers off of the burners, we're going to want to make sure that your wires are hooked up correctly to the valves. So for this part, you're going to need a screwdriver to take apart the burners on the inside and for the faceplate on the front of the grill. So we're going to take out the burners here just so we don't break anything as far as the valve stems go. And then we're going to transition to taking off the faceplate. So we're going to loosen up the two bottom screws of our faceplate. These should have slotted holes, so you don't have to undo the screws all the way. Just loosen them up enough that it's not putting pressure there anymore. Once you have those screws loosened up on the bottom, you should be able to just pull up slightly, get the tabs out of the screws, be careful not to pull in any of the wires, and rotate the faceplate out. So once you get your faceplate off, you're going to notice these little black wires and these silicone sleeves. You're going to want to make sure that these wires are plugged all the way into the receiving end right here, and just make sure those are snug and tight. That's going to make sure that your valve sparks each time that you turn the knob. The other thing is it's going to have these silicone sleeves right here. I'll pull it up and just make sure that those are going over the top of that black part on the valve right here. That's going to make sure that it doesn't shock anywhere else except for at the end of the igniter. Now don't worry if yours aren't this orange color, they also come in clear. So as long as you have this valve cover, this silicone sleeve, you should be good. So make sure your wires are tight and those sleeves are all the way up and pushed against the valve, covering that connection. After you do that, we're gonna go ahead and reverse the process and put this faceplate right back on the grill. Go back down and just reverse the process and tighten those bottom screws on each side. Just like that, okay. Now that you've got the faceplate reattached, let's go ahead and put our burners back on. So the same way they came out, we're just gonna slide them back to the inside to their corresponding slots. So one thing to remember when you're putting your burners inside the grill again is to make sure that these holes right here, they're only on one side of the burner. Make sure that those holes are pointed towards the bottom of the grill so they're facing down and not up. This is gonna help with the lighting process and making sure that you have a sure ignition every time. Just like that. Once your burners are all in their slots, go ahead and get all of your screws, screw them back in. We don't want those to slide around. Make sure they stay in place. So at this point, we're going to adjust these wires on the inside of the grill. These are what spark and cause your burners to ignite. The trick here is to get the igniters to spark where those holes on the underside of the burner are. It's important to, if you are going to bend this wire, just to bend the wire themselves. That's where a pair of needle noses comes in play, but don't adjust this ceramic piece here or they will break. So when you're adjusting these, you're just going to want to barely push on them to bend them a little bit, or you can take a pair of needle noses and just kink them just ever so slightly. You're just going to want 1/8 of an inch between the tip of that wire and the burner itself. A good way to test this is make sure you're not touching any of the metal surfaces and just look for a spark when turning the valve. You should see a spark go between the igniter wire and the burner. If you're not, either move it a little bit closer or a little bit farther away. So this one, I think I was a little too close, and so I want a little bit stronger spark, and so I'm going to extend it a little bit. We're going to turn it, and now we're getting a great spark across both sides. At this point, we're going to want to rehook up our propane tank so we can run some gas back to our burners to make sure that they're working. So at this point, go ahead and turn your gas on. Make sure that all the connections are tight and everything is good. Another pro tip is if you have been running your smoker for a little while, sometimes the side ports on these burners do get a little bit clogged. So if you have a wire bristle brush, you can just take it and go along the side and just kind of scrub those a little bit, and it'll knock all that debris free, and that will help with the ignition process as well. So now that we have all of our igniters adjusted and our gas is turned on, we can go ahead and make sure that everything is working correctly. So we're going to depress the valve, let the gas come out for about 2 seconds. And there we go. So now that's lit, we can go ahead and light all of our other ones. Now that we've got everything adjusted and all of our igniters are working correctly, let's go ahead and shut off all the valves. That way it is not hot when we go to put our heat deflectors back inside of the grill. You're gonna wanna let it completely cool down before you go in there as well to avoid any burns. So now that everything is cooled down, we're gonna go back inside and put in our heat deflectors. Make sure that they do line up in their slots, that way that burner is covered and protected. Put these back in, just like that. So now that we have our heat deflectors in place, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and put these grill grates back on. It's important that they do go in the grooves on the front and back of the grill. Perfect, just like that. Thanks for watching. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to our customer support or go to campchef.com.